Bullying is the worst. It can make your childhood a complete misery, and it can have lasting effects on your confidence and self-esteem. You do not want this for your only child, but fear not, for in this video I will share with you some effective anti-bullying tactics that will protect your child. Hello, and my name is Tamsin, and I run the website theonlychildclub.net. And I'm dedicated to supporting you and your gorgeous one-child family, helping you all to grow, flourish and live life to the full. Now, before I continue, I'd like to ask you if you could kindly tap that subscribe button. That will help this channel to grow, and it can help me make more videos that will be of help to you. So please do remember to tap that subscribe button. There is nothing more heartbreaking for a parent to hear their child is being bullied. You can feel so helpless when they're sobbing in your arms because they feel utterly dejected, but it's important for them to understand their own sense of self-worth and not to have that bullied out of them. As a parent, it's important for you to know when to intervene in the scenario and when to teach your child to stand up to the bullies and to defend themselves. So first, I think I'd better define what bullying is, and I think the best way of doing it is using the definition given by the Anti-Bullying Alliance. They say that bullying is the repetitive, intentional hurting of one person or group by another person or group, where the relationship involves an imbalance of power. Bullying can be physical, verbal, or psychological. It can happen face-to-face and online. You also need to recognise some of the signs of bullying. They are behaviour. Your child's behaviour may change. If they're an extrovert, they may go into themselves and become quiet and withdrawn. Maybe their anxiety starts to grow, or maybe they'll turn the other way and they become more aggressive. If your child is being bullied, then their sleep patterns may change. They may have difficulty sleeping, or they may suffer from more nightmares. Their academic performance may be hindered by bullying. Perhaps they normally get good grades, but their grades just start to take a rapid decline. If that happens, bullying may be the cause. They also may start to avoid school because they're being bullied, although they might not necessarily say that. And this goes on to the next part. Their physical health may be affected. They may have unexplained injuries or frequent complaints that they are ill, and anxiety and stress can cause physical symptoms. But equally, they may pretend they are in order to avoid going to school and facing the bullies. I know I certainly pretended many a time to be sick, to have a bad tummy, and say, oh, I've got a tummy ache, can't go to school. And then my mum would give me milk of magnesia, which is the most worst, disgusting stuff, and send me to school anyway. So here are some of the anti-bullying techniques that you can try with your child. The first thing is to encourage your child to talk to you so that you can help them build a sense of self-esteem. You need to continue to praise your child for their good points, their talents. Make sure when you are praising your child that you're specific about what it is that you're praising them for. Don't just say, oh, you're really clever. You can say, hey, I really like that picture you drew. You're very good at art. So make sure that you're specific when you're praising your child, or when you're praising them for good behaviour. Again, make sure it's specific. I'm really glad that you did what I asked the first time I asked you. You need to build up the confidence in your child that the bullies have bullied out of them. The second thing you need to do is teach your child key social skills, and such as assertiveness. You can do this through role play. Your child will need to learn how to stand up for themselves against the bullies, but will also need to learn how to be submissive to authorities so that they can learn and grow. It's a hard lesson to learn that even us adults find difficult to do. Sometimes we may have a manager or a boss who's telling us what to do, and we think they're bullying us when actually they're just being a manager. Maybe they're not doing it in such a good way, but it's not actually bullying. Your child needs to also learn to distinguish the difference between an authoritative figure who wants the best for them and whether someone is being a bully, and whether they need to be assertive. You also need to teach your child conflict resolution as well, so that they know how to de-escalate a situation. And I will do another video about conflict resolution in the future. So if you are interested in hearing about that and how you can help your child with conflict resolution, remember to press that subscribe button and also the notification bell as well, so that you'll be alerted when that video comes up. Now, the next point I'm going to suggest to you is could be considered a little controversial. It could cause problems, okay? So you have to do this very carefully. If your child is being bullied at school, and the vast majority of bullying does seem to happen in schools, then you need to let your child's school know. You need to inform them. However, it all depends on how the child's school will deal with it. Some schools are much better at dealing with bullying than others. I know children where they've gone to the school behaviour teachers and they've said, this, you know, I'm being bullied, and they said, who's doing it? Well, a whole bunch of kids. I don't know their names. Well, if you don't know their names, there's nothing we can do. So what do you do with that? So it is important that you do inform the school, but you find out exactly what the school is going to do to deal with the bullies. Because also what you don't want is to report it to the school deal with the bully, okay, and say how, and then that bully then turns around and bullies your child even more because they say they're being a snitch. What you don't want to be doing is telling the school that your child's being bullied by a particular person. That school goes really down hard on that person, but says that you've reported it or your child's reported it, and then they go and bully your child even more. Children are very reluctant to tell schools that they're being bullied for this very reason, and I'm not surprised. So that's where it's important, when you contact the school and let them know what's happening, you also find out exactly what the school's going to do and make sure that they don't do anything that's going to make things even worse for your child. You know, I know cases where in schools they've dealt with the victim like they're the perpetrators almost, that they've isolated the victim so that they're away from the bully. Or some schools, they've dealt with it so badly, the child who's being bullied actually leaves school and is homeschooled. We've now one with homeschooling, and I'll definitely do a video about homeschooling, but I don't think it's a good reason to leave school, to be homeschooled or whatever, because you've been so traumatised by bullies, and the bullies still get to go to school and have an education. That's not right. So I do know schools don't always handle it very well. So what do you think on this one? Do you think schools handle bullying very well? How about your own school when you were growing up, or your child's school? Are they handling the case of bullying very well? Do let me know in the comments below. Right, moving on. Encourage your child to build a nice close group of friends. They don't have to be the most popular child in school with all the most popular kids, but they will be less vulnerable if they have got a good close knit of friends and they're not isolated on their own. Now, if your child does struggle to make friends, I have got a video that you can watch after this for your child to watch as well, about how to make friends. By all means watch that so your child can learn some good techniques to make some really good friends. Now, this next point I'm going to share with you is this is very much a case of do as I say, not as I do, okay? Because it's don't embarrass your child. bullies will pick up on that and tease your child terrible. And to be honest with you, I'm a shocker. I have embarrassed my daughter before now, way too much, and I'm very sorry that I have done that. I can only be my weird, eccentric self, but it has made things difficult, let's say, for my daughter. And she says everybody in the school knows that I am her mother, so I feel a bit bad about that. And it can cause problems. Now, my own father, he was also a very eccentric man, and he had a very eccentric car, and I was embarrassed by him. And you can only be your unique self, but, you know, do be aware, let's just say, of your child, how your child feels, how they fit into the school community or whatever social group they fit in. Try not to embarrass them, but I know it is not easy if you are a rather eccentric person. Now, I'm going to recommend on the next point that you teach your child a martial art. Now, Sops and I spent most of the Christmas holidays watching the Cobra Kai series, and that series does highlight the dangers of everyone knowing karate, because they're just itching to use their skills over the smallest conflict, rather than resolving matters civilly. And that TV series starts the same way as the original movie. One child's being bullied by other children, one person teaches them karate, that he defends himself, everyone else is impressed by that, they all join Cobra Kai, then they all learn it, and then due to interpersonal relationships everything escalates, and the end of, I think it was the first or the second, I think it was the end of the first series, ends up in a massive school fight, so not quite so good. So I do recommend your child learns karate, but the Mr. Miyagi way, for defence only, so that they grow in the confidence that if they are being bullied, especially if they're being bullied physically, they know how to defend themselves. Now, my daughter, she was doing something called Tiny Tigers when she was little, and some kid went to punch her in primary school, honestly, and she just did a block, and then she apparently got in trouble at school, but we cooked off over that because that's not right. It is important that your child knows how to defend themselves, and learning a martial art is a good way. They'll also learn other skills as they learn a martial art, such as focus, coordination, social skills, conflict resolution, all these other skills. Martial arts are a brilliant way of learning, so I'd highly recommend that. Always have your child's back unless you discover that they are the bully, and then you need to come down really hard on them. I remember an episode of Everyone Loves Raymond. Do you remember that TV series? And this particular episode that I remember, I don't remember all of them, I just remember this one in particular, because the little girl in there said she was being bullied, and this family overreacted like they always do about, you know, what they're going to do to the bullies, how they're going to talk to the bullies' parents, whatever it was, they're going to really escalate it. And then the father, Raymond, I think, goes to speak to the school bus driver and to do a bit of research, and the school bus driver admits that actually it's his little girl who's been doing the bullying, and that she's been teasing a girl because she wears glasses. And then they have to reflect on what's the new information, the new evidence that's come out, and then they've had to deal with that with the child, that she's the one who's doing the bullying. So I think, you know, if your child admits they are being bullied, it might be worth doing a little bit of research before you go full out. Whatever response you have, make sure that you do get the facts straight. See if you can speak to eyewitnesses to find out the full story before you make a decision. Once upon a time, people would be able to catch a bully by the scruff of their neck or pull them by the earlobe and take them home, tell their parents what their child had done, and the parents would believe you, they'd be really shocked, and they would administer the appropriate consequence. You can't do that anymore. Some people think that's a bad thing, some people think that's a good thing. What do you think? Do you think that communities have broken down so much and there's no trust in communities that people shouldn't be allowed to take the scruff of another child's neck and take them to their parents? Or do you think actually the good old days were much better? Let me know in the comments below. Well, the truth is, talking to parents of bullies is very difficult, especially if they can be defensive, which naturally I imagine they can be. And what do you do with such parents? I think of the Dursleys in Harry Potter, who don't think that their son, Dudley, does anything wrong, even though Dudley is a notorious bully. What do you do with parents that spoil their children and don't believe you if you say your child is being bullied? Well, this is the time when you need to be the tiger parent and make sure that if the parent's not doing anything, that schools and other authorities do. By all means, go to the school and make sure that they come down hard on the child. If it's not happening in school, then if a child is being a bully in a social group like Scouts or Guides, then go to the Scout leader or the Guide leader. If they're not doing anything, go to the police. If that's not happening, then take your child out of the situation. Okay, don't let your child be a victim of bullying. It's going to have long-term harm from them. Find another school. Do some homeschooling if you have to. This is the time when you really have to have your child's back, and you may have to make sacrifices to allow for that. But your child later on in life will remember that, and it will help them in the future as they need to grow their confidence again, to get a career and to have good quality relationships, and not having to spend loads and loads of money on therapy dealing with the trauma of being bullied. Now, this last point I'm going to make is going to sound like the opposite of what I've just said. It's a very different approach, okay? This isn't a fighty approach. This is a kindly, nicey approach. If your child is being bullied by potentially a frenemy, like a kid who one moment is really nice and friendly and the next moment is blooming awful, or if the child is being bullied but you realise that the bully has their own issues going on in their own family, then you may want to actually, dare I say, invite the bully round for dinner and to spend more time with them, to find out a little bit more about them and their story. And then perhaps you, as a parent, can help build a friendship, or at least the bully would have more respect for you and therefore more respect for your child. This sometimes works. There's a YouTube channel that I like to watch called Cinema Therapy, and it's all about these two people who talk about how films can help you with your emotional issues and have a better understanding of yourself and other people. And how you can sort of get some sort of therapy out of it. And the therapist, called Jonathan Decker, talks about how he was bullied as a child, and his mum actually invited the bully round for dinner, got to know the bully, and whilst he never became friends with Jonathan, he did back off and stop bullying. So that's a way of dealing with it. You can also consider helping your child try and have some empathy with the bully, but it really does depend on the bully. However, in cinema therapy, this is where they say Harry Potter is actually the master of having empathy for the bully. Harry Potter empathises with Voldemort, for crying out loud, who is beyond any redemption, I think. It's a very hard thing to do, but whatever happens, whether your child is able to empathise with their bully or not, eventually it's important for your child to learn to forgive the bully, even if the bully is not sorry, if by unforgiving the bully, it's actually eating up your child and making them bitter and horrible. I know what it's like not to forgive someone, and I think it was the Buddha who said that not forgiving someone is like swallowing poison and hoping the other person dies. It eats you up, and it can make you damaged just by not forgiving and being so angry and bitter. And you don't want that for your child either, because to be honest with you, when your child grows up, when your child's bully grows up, the bully's probably going to forget about it, not even think that they were bullying. It won't be an issue for them, but it could still be an issue for your child. And I've watched many a TV series and comedy or whatever raising this. There's a British comedian called Sarah Milligan, I think her name is, and she said how a woman wrote to her and said how much she loves her as a comedian, and you know, they went to school together, and this comedian says, yeah, she was my bully. And so I don't think that woman probably remembers that. I don't think bullies really understand the terrible impact and the lasting impact that they have. But sometimes they do, and I'm thinking of, I think he's a fox, Gideon, I think his name is, in Zootropolis, who when he grows up is sorry for the way that he behaved towards Hops and the other children. So definitely worth watching that. His apologies, spot on. I absolutely love it.
Gideon Gray. I'll be darned.
Hey, Judy, I'd just like to say I'm sorry for the way I behaved in my youth. I had a lot of self-doubt, and it manifested itself in the form of unchecked rage and aggression. I was a major jerk.
Right, so your homework, I don't normally set homework, but your homework is to watch the following things, do good film references, watch Harry Potter, watch the cinema therapy episode of Harry Potter, watch The Boy Who Would Be King, that is on Disney Plus. That's a brilliant film. I love it. It's so underrated. It's a very low budget. You can see that. It's got Patrick Stewart in it, but that's probably as far as stardom goes. But it's a charming film, and in that film you see the boy dealing well with his bullies. And also watch Zootropolis. Well, I hope you have found this video helpful. If you have, please press that like button, and do let me know in the comments below what you think the best methods are for supporting your child when they're being bullied. Until next week, toodles.